70% of all of the appointments that you're going to set are going to come from lead follow-up. To spend your time actively and proactively prospecting and not doing lead follow-up, a recipe for you not building this foundation that you're looking to build in the real estate business from 0 to 25 transactions. So people ask me frequently, what's the best lead follow-up system? What's the best CRM to use? I always like to subscribe to the KISS method. Keep it simple, silly. The simpler it is, the higher degree of probability I'll be able to execute on it consistently. That's my experience in anything, whether that's working out consistently, investing money consistently, doing lead follow-up consistently. You want to create a system that's as simple as possible because simple is easier and it's usually better. And business is not like the Olympics, right? You don't get special points for doing something that's very difficult. If you do utilize a CRM, they have various different mechanisms to help you with lead follow-up. Again, the CRM that we recommend is Follow Up Boss. There's others that are out there that you can utilize. The CRM that's the best is the one that you use, right? The reason why we utilize Follow Up Boss is because it's the most user-friendly, in my opinion, has the best user interface. They have reminders. They have different kind of systems that you can follow that, digitally or electronically will remind you to do lead follow-up. For me, while those are great, I personally like to see things and have them like visually in front of me on a regular basis. So something that I devised, which is super simple, is something I call your business at a glance, right? And the business at a glance was I would write down all of my leads that I was currently working with. And again, my definition of a lead is somebody who's going to do a transaction in the next 21 days, 30 days tops. They're going to sign a listing agreement. So I would write down the lead, their name, the lead source, right, where it came from. And I would just systematically, 1 through whatever it was, 15, 18 at the time. And then underneath that, I would write out all of the pending transactions that we had currently. So it gave me a glance of what's happening in the business, but it also helped me with lead follow-up. I would keep that sheet of paper in front of me at all times. And it would travel with my physical person all the time, right? So if I was at an event going to learn, that business at a glance sheet came with me, as well as contact information for those leads so I can reach out to them and talk to them. The logic behind that is I'm making outbound calls. Let's say I'm calling probates or expires or whoever I'm calling. I could look down and say, oh, the Smiths. Yeah, they're going to sign a contract next 30 days. I haven't spoken to them in a couple days. Let me reach out to them, touch base with them, whether that's a text, email, phone call. Just keeps it top of mind, right? Because there's nothing more, discouraging and doing all the hard work, heavy lifting, talking to people, getting them close to the finish line, but because you forgot to follow up, having to call them and say, hey, what's going on? You ready to proceed and get the process started? And they're like, man, I listed the property last week. Yeah, this guy called me and, I was just ready to go. And so I just listed with him, my bad. Whether it's you're utilizing a CRM or utilizing kind of that keep it simple, silly methodology, the goal and objective is to have these leads. And again, it matters what your definition of a lead is in front of you regularly while actively prospecting. Now, a lot of people get caught up in does that count as a contact and this and that? Remember, the whole purpose of prospecting is to set appointments. That's the whole goal and objective, right? So, lead follow-up is something that needs to be done daily. Some people think that they can separate it, I do lead follow-up on Tuesdays. No, I'm going to be doing lead follow-up every single day because as I'm actively prospecting, I'll be adding people to that list. Now, again, you've heard me say multiple times, your definition of a lead matters. It really, really does. I know in a previous video in this series, this foundation series, I shared with you that, I can tell based on somebody's definition of a lead, how many transactions they're doing on a regular basis, right? So somebody's definition of lead, somebody's going to do something in 90 to 120 days. They're probably doing 30 deals a year or something like that. Somebody whose definition of a lead is 6 months to 9 months, they're doing 10, 15 deals. Somebody whose definition of a lead is 21 days, they're probably doing 70 plus transactions, right? So your definition of a lead matters, and that's going to dictate who goes onto that sheet, right? That business at a glance. Whatever your mechanism is, what's critically important is for you to recognize that prospecting without doing lead follow-up is a waste of time because the vast majority of the appointments that you're going to set, approximately 70% are going to come from lead follow-up. So it's not a complete waste of time. You'll probably get some, results, but you will not get the results that are possible with a good lead follow-up structure and plan in place. Now, another thing that I hear people say to me is they feel kind of like internal friction about doing lead follow-up. So they don't want to bother people. They don't want to like, I talked to them last week. Like, I don't know. So here was my rule of thumb. If they said, call me back in a week, if I know that they're an 8, 9, or a 10, they're going to sell. And they say, call me back in a week, cut it in half. Be more aggressive. Will you lose some business being too aggressive? Yes. Will you lose more business because you're not aggressive enough? Absolutely, without question. Okay. So that's kind of that mental map. Whatever they tell you, cut it in half. The other thing that is true is you have to remember that people that are highly, highly motivated, they want to work with people that are equally as motivated and have an equal sense of urgency. Yeah. I find that a lot of agents take this like nonchalant approach to doing lead follow-up, and that only ends up hurting them in the end. Like reflect back if you're watching this, if you've done some transactions like, where you're like, oh yeah, like I don't want to bother them, like la la la. How did that work out? They probably ended up going with somebody else because you weren't there when they were ready to do something. So one, cut whatever time frame they tell you to get back to them, cut it in half. 2, recognize that motivated homeowners, they want motivated agents and they want agents with urgency. So you're actually doing your job by doing that lead follow-up. Now, people ask me all the time, hey, what's the best method for lead follow-up? Is it a phone call? Is it a text message? Is it an email? Is it a video? You know what I mean? What I'm aware of is each form of communication has different kind of pros and cons, right? The goal, though, is to communicate. I think sometimes we can get like really lost in the weeds, like, what's the best? And then we don't end up doing anything, right? So keep in mind, text has much higher kind of response rates. At least that's been my experience, and pretty much across the board with any study that I've looked at, much higher response rates than telephone. Email's okay. It's not fantastic. I think video is a wonderful way to do some lead follow-up. However you're going to do it, just do it, right? I like to use the telephone, right? More often than not, just a quick phone call, then text. If I am going to reach out to somebody like via email, I'm going to make sure there's a video in it because I think that increases the probability that somebody will see it. You want to be present when they're ready to transact, right? And the only way to do that is with frequency of follow-up. So make sure that your lead follow-up game is on point. Never let that be a reason why you aren't successful in this business. And never let that be the reason why opportunities slip through your fingers. Okay. Now, as far as lead follow-up from kind of a long-term perspective is concerned, I need you to understand that as you go down this path, as you're building this foundation from 0 to 25 deals, as long as you're a salesperson, you're going to perpetually nonstop forever be in the business of lead follow-up. It's just the way it is. I think some people like hope and wish and pray that one day they won't have to do that. And they also hope and wish and pray that they can utilize technology purely as a mechanism to do that for them. And that's just not accurate in my experience. Now, does technology help us? Does it assist in our ability to do lead follow-up? Sure. Does it take the place of you reaching out to people, like personally? I don't think it does, right? That personal touch, that personal text message, that video that you can send, or the phone call. And at the same time, there are tools that you can use that can help you, whether that be, AI or things of that nature. And I'm aware of that. I'm not trying to discount that, but don't think in your mind that you can completely outsource it, because I don't believe that that's accurate. You're still going to have communication with people because people do business with people, right? So you're perpetually and nonstop and forever going to be in the lead follow-up game. And remember that sometimes you don't have to be good. You just have to be there when they're ready to do something. Also keep in mind, what comes up for me as we're having this conversation is everybody has the same leads as you. I think sometimes we like hallucinate that, oh, these are like my precious, like my little leads and nobody else has them. It's not true, man. Like everybody has the same leads. And you thinking that other people don't have access to them, it reduces your sense of urgency. It reduces your commitment to lead follow-up. You get complacent and you're like, I could slough off and not talk to them for like a week or so, only to find out that they listed with somebody else who was there when they were ready, right? So don't fall into this like trap of thinking that you have something that nobody else possesses. That's not accurate. The other thing to consider kind of like from a mental map perspective is when somebody raises their hand and says, hey, I think I want to sell, like they're not just talking to you with a high degree of probability. They're probably mentioning it to family and friends. Those family and friends have like, oh, my friend's a real estate agent, or oh, this person's an agent, or oh, this person I know invests in property, and blah, 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 right? Everybody comes out of the woodwork. I think that's an appropriate mental map to think about lead follow-up and give you the appropriate sense of urgency, right? Is that, having a really awesome lead follow-up system and being diligent and consistent with it daily is the difference between you doing a handful of transactions a year or doing, 20, 25, which is what this series is all about. And for that reason, I wanted to make a video specifically on lead follow-up. So that way you're crystal clear of its importance, why it needs to happen, different tools that you can use, whether it's a keep it simple, silly method, of just your business at a glance. You write down leads. And again, that definition of lead is really, really important to me. That's somebody who's going to sign a contract in 21 to 30 days. And you keep that up in front of you at all times. It travels on your person all the time, right? So that way it's just top of mind and you can stay on top of it on a regular basis. Or if you utilize CRMs as a mechanism to remind you, like, great. I really don't care like the methodology that you use, just as long as you have one. And as far as like, what's the best way to follow up, whether it's text, phone call, email, like, look, everything works if you work it, right? Shorten the length of time, whatever they tell you, cut it in half. Recognize that motivated sellers or motivated individuals that want to solve their problems in real estate want a motivated agent, want an agent with urgency. You will lose a little bit of business being very aggressive. You will lose way more business by not being aggressive enough. I promise you, right? And in this business, the lead follow-up is the difference between getting that phone call, which is like, hey, we appreciate you. Thanks for everything you did. We did decide to go with somebody else, or you getting the listing agreement signed. It really is that black and white, right? So make it a point to make follow-up a point and make it a important part of your kind of prospecting schedule and routine. As far as when to do it, I think you can actively prospect, like some outbound source, whether like probate or something like that you're going after, like in the morning, and then sprinkle in, lead follow-up after that, right? Maybe that schedule looks like, prospecting, something that you're going after, expireds, cancels, for sale by owners, then doing a little past client centers of influence, then doing some lead follow-up, then doing like something cold, right? Where you're using, like a tool like the Enzo dialer and blowing through like a bunch of numbers, 40 contacts in an hour, where you're doing just listed, just sold. Yeah, that's a solid schedule of prospecting. It can probably take 4 hours of your time, but truthfully, you got nothing else you're doing, right? And if you do that consistently and make sure that you're doing lead follow-up consistently every single day, the way that I'm describing it to you, you will do more deals and have more business than you can possibly imagine. And then the challenge will be not so much having enough business and enough leads that allow you to create that business. The challenge is going to become having the proper systems, processes, and procedures to service that business. And that's a good problem. We're actually in the business of creating problems. I think sometimes we imagine that the goal in life is the elimination of problems, but if you've been on planet Earth long enough to know that once you eliminate a problem, another one pops up. And the goal isn't the elimination of problems. The goal is to create problems, just better problems. So having your lead follow-up be so on point that you're converting at a much higher level and listing more property, and now you need a better system to support it on the back end, that is a problem. It's a better problem than not having a good lead follow-up system and not doing enough transactions. Yeah. So allow really rock solid lead follow-up to create better problems for you in your business. If you've liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe, hit the little bell so that way you can be notified every time a new episode comes out for these series and future series to come. We're almost done with this series. I'll probably do one more video, maybe two that I've been thinking about. If you think this is helpful, if it's been helpful to you, be sure to share it, with somebody else, another agent that you think would benefit from it. And if I could help or be of assistance, just let me know. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.